That's
All right, welcome to another installment of the Life Happens podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Dotson. Here with me, as always, the late, the great, the man, the myth, the legend. Hey, Sean, what's your favorite apple?
I guess Red Delicious is my favorite apple.
Really? Mine's the Macintosh. Shawnee Mac, welcome once again.
Thanks, man. Yeah, always. How's everybody doing?
Always good to see you. Always good to see you fired up. And today is a topic that I know that you are ready to light the candle on.
Yeah. This is I don't know why it's a personal one for me. I find it very interesting, but we're talking about Elon Musk today, and Elon Musk is often portrayed as the charlatan and savior, and I think that's not exactly the full truth, and we'll get into the details of why. And I think it's pretty interesting. We teased it last episode, but we're going to dive in now.
And it's pretty interesting once I was doing the research just to kind of get a little background. I know we've talked about Elon Musk, but I want to be honest. I want to be true. I want to, get both sides of the story, the whole life, the whole timeline. So this
Yeah.
all started with our episode last week on Bill Gates and the Giving Pledge back in 2012. Um, Elon Musk's old John Hancock is right there on there, 2012. He signed the Giving Pledge with his buddy Bill Gates. Funny though, because he owns a private jet that flew over 150,000 miles in 2018, but we don't hear about
Bro,
that,
he
do we?
flies his private jet everywhere. He like commutes on his private jet to work. People don't know that. He will fly to work on his private jet as opposed to driving a car, a
He
longer
lives
distance. So,
he lives in one of those flying societies that you see on Instagram.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But just a little background before we get into it, because you gotta find out where um, Elon Musk kind of came from.
Yeah.
The 49-year-old South African, he will be 50 this year, June 28th.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy to think about. He moved to California at 25, not in 25. That'd be wild. At
Mhm.
25, started Zip2 with his brother, bought by Compaq in 1999, throwing it back for 307 million. He's a millionaire
Mhm.
at 29 with 22 million. Not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. He built in and cashed out, got paid. It's kind of the story and the name of the game of the 90s in Silicon Valley in tech.
Yeah,
Build
it's on to
a
the next.
website, sell it for an obscene amount of money, and move on to the next one.
It's really just on to the next adventure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
That was
Funny
the
though,
MO. It
it
still kind of
seems to
is.
be it seems to be a little theme here though. I saw a little footnote that said tried to become the CEO of the company, but it was voted down by the board. Okay, that happens. Young guy trying to make his bones. I get it.
Yeah.
Um,
29, maybe just a bit young to be CEO. Not that it's not common now, but less common in 99.
in '99, right? Um, in 2000, a year later, founded X.com. Musk was the CEO for the first 6 months, but then was very quickly replaced. Um, to which the move led to the company being merged a year later in 2000 to form what is now known as PayPal. Pretty big company, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, which is really where he made his money with PayPal.
Oh, he did.
Not that the
It's
22 million from the first company wasn't a payday, but compared to what he made in PayPal.
But what a stretch of like 3 or 4 years for this guy, because he went from 22 million at age 29 to a 1.5 billion dollar sale, of which he yielded over $100 million.
Yeah, no, that was a huge. I mean, listen, PayPal is huge, still was huge. Um, Credit to him and his team who built it because it was a great thing that they did, and it was pretty early when you think about how long ago it was compared to the fact that it's still pretty commonly used. Yeah, I think about all the tech companies that have fallen off since 2011. We're talking about
Yeah, it's insane.
all the defunct sites, all the even just the brands. Like we're talking about. You said Compact earlier. I don't even think they're around anymore.
They're not, but
So
you know who is PayPal, and
yeah, still kicking.
they own Venmo, which Venmo is an
Fucking huge right now.
everyday used
Yeah.
app.
Venmo is, yes. They were the first of the kind of financial services apps to really boom. Venmo it's still, ubiquitous, the term. It's like almost like a Kleenex. You don't say tissue, you say Kleenex. When you send
Yep,
someone money, you almost always say Venmo,
you see
even
how
if
Venmo.
you're doing Apple Pay, Google Cash, whatever it is, you still almost use the term Venmo interchangeably. So they were really like a big first mover. And yeah, just I give him credit for that one. That was a big one.
Yeah, it's like Band-Aid and Q-tip. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, and to be able to be like to say that is kind of wild. But yeah, to yield 100 million at 31 or whatever is insane. Tried to be the CEO twice. Was in the beginning, was once at the merger, and then tried to do it at the end. Failed all three times. Unfortunate, but seems to be a trend that
Yes. You'll see a
that's
trend
happened.
here where Elon likes to be CEO, but doesn't appear to be great at being CEO.
Not great at it, but very good at appearing to be qualified for shit that he can't do. So
Yes.
just to give people an idea of the money that we're talking about and how it all intertwines, that $1.5 billion sale that yielded him $100 million in 2002. Fast forward 10 years later. Now, I'll spare you the details. It's pretty high level. There are a few other companies in here, all of which he tried to be the CEO. It all failed. But his and that's not even it's funny because it's not even a joke. Like 2012, his net worth was
Mhm.
$2 billion. Now,
Yeah.
he is considered today to be a centibillionaire. Didn't know that was a word before I started the research. Centibillionaire.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It fluctuates given all of his wealth is tied up in Tesla share price. So his wealth fluctuates tens of billions of dollars a day based on Tesla share price. But when Tesla shares have peaked, he has been the richest man in the world for periods of time. And it's all just based on the appreciation of Tesla stock share price, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, because nowadays he is CEO of Tesla, the electric vehicle company that I think damn near everyone knows about now. So
and
it's
you
not
just
really a
nailed
small thing anymore.
and you just nailed it too because um, he pushed his way onto the board in 2004, becoming CEO in 2008. Net worth in 2012, 2 billion. Early 2020, 27 billion. Already great
Yeah,
returns,
yeah,
but
he God.
I was just going to say, just to top it off, throughout 2020, towards the end of 2020, net worth 150 billion. In November, he passed Zuckerberg, and then a week later, he passed our old good buddy Bill Gates. And in January 2021, for the first time in his life, became the richest man in the world, passing Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, yeah, it was fleeting, but he was there, and I don't know why he is often given a pass on this. He is seen and thought of and talked about as like a man of the people, when in reality that couldn't be farther from the truth in terms of the way he actually lives, the actuality of the situation. But it's really interesting to me that he always gets a pass, and people, the little guy, always feel like Elon's fighting for them. Meanwhile, he's richer than Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates.
Yeah, I think that idea, that aura of him being for the little guy comes at 120 characters at a time.
Yeah, it really does. And that's what it comes down to with Elon, is like he runs his companies almost like Trump tried to run the country, like Twitter policy. Like
Yep.
he's just going to decide things on Twitter. That's going to be policy. That's going to be how we run the company, or we're going to run the country in Trump's case, and that's it. I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants, shoot from the hip, and do whatever I want to do. And it's really interesting because while that can work out and has worked out for him clearly in the past, with an auto manufacturer, it's very different at a tech company, X.com, like, a little bit different than running a multinational auto manufacturer and distributor. You can't really just fudge the numbers and make cars appear in places if you haven't produced them and don't have the logistics in place. So it's very different. And because of that, I think Elon got caught with his pants down quite a few times, but really just lied his way out of it.
And nothing ever came of it, right? Exactly, because he was already, what feels like was he was already in the position of power that he wouldn't be reprimanded as much as he should. Now, his biggest problem was, one, he talks too much, two, he talks out of his ass, and
Yes,
three,
yes.
the amount of people listening to him and able to call bullshit on what he says has grown exponentially, and now everyone's like, this guy is just, everybody knows a guy like this who just isn't Elon Musk. Like,
Yes. So one of the most interesting things about him is Elon likes to pretend like he knows more than he does about very complex subject, like theoretical physics or something like that, like something I don't know shit about. But like you said, hundreds of millions of people listen to Elon talk, including very, very smart people. So there's been many times where Elon has been openly hypothesizing or prophesizing on social media, namely Twitter, and those people in those fields who are experts in the field realize that he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about, and he's talking out his ass. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a flip for many of them who are experts in these fields, and they find Elon making his way into their field, like when he was going to have Tesla build a submarine to save those kids trapped in a Thai cave, like in 2017. Like,
Which he was sued for, but also settled for, so never convicted, never charged.
exactly. Like he just sees something on Twitter that's trending, and he's like, I need to be involved in that. And he's like,
I
Tesla
need
will
my
build a
name up.
submarine to get those kids. Yes, he's an egomaniac. He's not. He's clearly smart. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not smart. Like, he's clearly a
Oh,
genius,
clearly
but
a genius. Clearly
he's also like an egotistical maniac,
wants
and
to be a celebrity.
he has to be involved in anything that's remotely pop culture oriented. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's where he's gotten caught up. But
To say the least.
this
And which, if you're gonna be a literal space cadet, because he founded SpaceX, which in 2012, of which has had a successful trip into space, which for all intents and purposes is kind of cool, but also like that's
private
all
space
well and
flight
good,
company.
but but when you're talking about, you know, publicly traded companies, and when you're talking about people's money, people's retirement, things like that, like Tesla's in the S&P 500. That
Yeah, so
that is a benchmark.
most people don't know that Tesla has. We're not going to get into it. There's plenty of podcasts out there that have done it, but Tesla has faked their profits for a little while by selling their regulatory credits. So they kind of goose the numbers and prove that they had 4 quarters of profits. When if you back out the sale of their electric vehicle credits from the government, which you can sell company to company, they never actually turned a profit. But because they showed 4 quarters of profit, they were allowed in the S&P. So if you have a retirement fund, you own the S&P 500. Tesla is one of the largest weightings of the S&P 500. That means one of the largest weightings in your retirement portfolio is probably Tesla. And it's a company that has to fake their numbers to turn a profit. So I'm just, like
Until
that's
they
the type of
don't, and he
thing
moves on to the next thing.
that's the type of thing we're talking about here, where Elon has, due to his ability in the media and the love of Elon and the image that is portrayed of Elon, and that is the only narrative and image that's discussed, he's allowed to get away with whatever he wants. He has a get out of jail free card for all intents and purposes, and that's really interesting. And I don't know how we got there, where this dude can just like fleece people out of money openly. Um, he told the SEC to like suck his dick. Like, we'll go all the way back to the
That's
initial
that's actually
allegations,
what
and
that's
like,
actually what I want to talk about. Actually, is
yeah. Well, we got to
because
start with the fake buyout first, because that's what caused everything.
that's the key. Is the tweet that he said that he
Mm-hmm.
secured an investment that could take Tesla back into the private sector.
Yeah, exactly. So Tesla was a publicly traded company. You can buy that stock in Tesla. He said that he had funding secured at $420 a share when the stock was out. I can't remember exactly, roughly maybe $350 a share. So he quoted $70 higher than it was currently trading at. Said he had a buyer at that price, meaning somebody was going to give him $420 per share for the public shares of his company to take it private. So, if, well, one, as a CEO of a publicly traded company, you can't say that if it's not true. You're not allowed to lie and say that and get your stock price to go up to hit financial incentives and bonuses and make the company look like it's in better financial position than it is. But that's exactly what he did.
In paper and on the screen, or however you read it today, that is fraud.
Yeah, so it like the things that Elon has done are not these hypothetical like pie in the sky ideas. Everything he's done is like well documented, and you can reference back to the tweet or whatever it is. So in this case, he said he had funding secured at $420 a share. The market, I remember it vividly. The market freaked out. Everyone speculated. People thought the Saudi Arabian princes, their private company, was buying Tesla. Like big oil was coming
Which is
in.
what was I was gonna say, which was what was expected, and that's how he ended up getting in trouble with the SEC, was because it was there was no ground whatsoever for his claim.
Yeah, so the Securities and Exchanges Commission is supposed to regulate, the stock market and things of that nature, investigated it, found out it was completely false.
Took like
And
2 seconds.
Elon, which is corporate fraud, just to be clear, that is labeled and like corporate fraud.
Oh yeah, it's
That
not private. It's not just an individual. It's not private. He is the CEO of Tesla. It is the company.
you're supposed to be one fired as the CEO of a company for doing that, but like, if that was Enron or something or like BP, people would have their head like they'd want to see him in jail.
Which we
If
saw
the
both.
CEO of BP was like inflating their share price and lying about their profits as a company, like, so these are things that should have had him fined, which they did, fired as CEO and barred from returning as CEO. Like that's standard regulations for corporate fraud like this.
And for those that don't know the outcome of that agreement with the SEC, it never went to court because why would it? It's Elon Musk. It was $20 million for him as a person. It was $20 million against the company of which he runs, so he approved it. And then he was not allowed to
He's
be
a billionaire.
chairman. Not allowed. That is literally money in his ashtray in his car. And then he was not allowed to be chairman of the board for 3 years, which is
Mm-hmm.
nothing, but allowed to remain CEO, that title that he had been fighting for clearly since day one. So not much changes. He pays a bar tab for himself, bar tab for the company at the Christmas party, holiday party, and then uh, we keep it moving.
Yeah, Elon gets to do what he wants and it's fine. And then he, comes back. It's a little bit later, but he is getting ballsy now because he realizes he has a get out of jail free card. At this point, he knows it. So he tweets that the Securities and Exchange Commission stands for three words. The first word is suck. The middle word begins with an E, implying Elon, and the last word is cock. So Elon told the SEC on public forum on Twitter to suck his dick. Like he's literally
Pretty amazing.
pissing on the punishment they're supposed to be handing out to him. And part of his punishment was all of his tweets were supposed to be reviewed by somebody at the SEC before he was allowed to tweet to make sure he wasn't going to move financial markets with his tweets like he had done in the past, lying about secured funding. That never happened. He's openly lied about the financial implications of his company again since then, moving the market again. Like
The
he should have been
review
fired
happened.
again.
The review was on a monthly basis. It's funny because I just read it. The review was on a monthly basis, and he had to quote Tesla and one other word for it to be qualified as part of the agreement.
Yeah, so
That's not a
here we
punishment.
have
That's not a
here
review.
we have a billionaire of a publicly traded company committing corporate fraud with a slap on their spine that's allowed to remain CEO, and not only remain CEO but openly publicly taunt the government institution that is in charge of regulating the markets that he's taunting and flagrantly disregarding the rules for. So like, and again, this is the guy that's praised as like our savior. Like he's come to save us. He's going to put us all on Mars. Don't worry about it. So it's cool. Like, and
I'm
I
still looking. I'm still looking forward to that tunnel between New York and Washington D.C. It's coming any day.
Yeah. So there's Elon's history is littered with false promises, and this is what he does. We touched on it a little bit. He just latches on to whatever is pop culture, whatever is going on, our ever changing, breakneck speed, social media driven culture and environment. And whatever happens to be going on, he latches on. He jumps in. He pretends like he's going to get involved, and nothing ever comes of it. But he makes promises when he does it, and that's the difference. Like the kids in the cave, like when he said Tesla was going to start making ventilators for COVID patients.
They
Uh,
turned out to be aged CPAP machines. I looked that up too.
yeah, like it's just I've never seen it where somebody is so universally highly regarded when their documented history portrays a completely different picture.
It's fraud. It's fraud. It's a guy who's lied on his resume the entire time. Is he a genius? Yes. Is he in way over his head and robbing Peter to pay Paul, literally with his own personal
Oh
view,
yeah, so we
public
we
view?
teased
It's
it.
unbelievable.
We teased it last time. He has committed securities fraud, corporate fraud, not once but twice.
Mm.
So there's another company we haven't mentioned, Solar City. Elon basically founded a solar panel company. They were one of the really early movers, like way back, like 2014, when solar was pretty new and starting to come of age. He technically had his brother or his cousin run it as the CEO, I think. I don't remember, but he was on the
It
board.
was his
It
brother.
was
Yeah.
within the Musk family companies. And it was very well understood that Musk was like very heavily involved. So that company was hemorrhaging money. Solar started to kind of dive. The popularity kind of weaned off. It like peaked really early in the 2010s, died off a little bit, and then came back with a vengeance in the late 2010s. So in that valley, things went pretty bad for Solar City, and they were going to go belly up as a company. Elon had pledged his Tesla stock against his Solar City stock, and so Solar City couldn't go bust, or else he would get called on his Tesla stock that he pledged for his Solar City stock,
Which he can't liquidate.
which he couldn't liquidate. So if Solar City went belly up, Tesla was going to go belly up. And oh, by the way, SpaceX was also factored into all of this because he had pledged all of his loans for all three companies against his other loans at other companies. And this is all
All while
documented.
all while having fun on Twitter with the Boring Company making flamethrowers.
Yeah, yeah. While he's doing that, pretending like it's like the most important project in the world, like he's saving the polar bears. So what really happened, where the fraud really occurred, is he realized that his company, for all intents and purposes, was going under. You know, it was his quote unquote brother's company or cousins. So what did he do? Elon, being the charlatan that he is, he got up on stage and gave a presentation because he loves to like mimic Steve Jobs with his presentations. But
I had a
in the,
feeling that that was the case when I read that he was the chairman, and then what was it? It was the product. What's the word? Product
oh god,
architect.
product architect.
Go fuck
So
yourself.
he got on stage giving a presentation. I remember watching it because this was very early on in my personal experience with Elon, and I was still in that aura of disinformation, thinking that Elon was this like savior, this amazing person.
I'm so
And I
glad
remember
you said
talking to
that.
my parents about it because he was proposing a shingle, a roof shingle that was an individual solar tile. Each single, about think of a book cover size, was an individual solar tile, and you could string them all together on your roof, and it would not only be your roof, it was your roof, but it was also a solar farm. It was going to power your house. He got up on
Genius.
stage, gave this crazy presentation. At that point in time, everybody took anything Elon said as complete gospel. There was no questioning it. And I remember thinking, wow, this is the coolest thing in the world. How much energy is this guy going to save? The product didn't exist yet. Not only did the product not exist, they didn't even have a prototype. They took a battery and stuck it on the back of a roof shingle, and he got on stage and held it up and lied and said that they had this new technology.
And that's the difference between Steve Jobs and Elon Musk is the
Yes.
product was there, ready, and we'd figured it out, not, hey, we're going to make this, turn around, hey guys, how do we make this?
So what happened was he saved the company from going under because he got on stage saying, "We have this amazing new solar tile. We're going to replace all the roofs in the country. Look at our TAM, our total addressable market. Look how big it is because we're going to replace every roof in the world." They didn't even have the product, but everybody believed everything Elon said. So the share price went skyrocketing. What did Elon do? Tesla took over Solar City, merged them as a company, and brought the Solar City battery technology into Tesla, which was
Right
probably
under the umbrella, yeah.
smart, but like, and then
But it
he
has to be all
all of
on
a sudden
paper. It's
hit,
all on paper. They weren't actually making anything.
yeah, no, yeah. So, but then all of a sudden, all of his margin problems go away because he's issued all of these stocks against other stocks. Now all that goes away because it's all one company. Um, so that was his second fake, not necessarily fake buyout, but the first was fake buyout. This was more or less just outright fraud, just
So
lying
wait,
about a
so
product.
just back up 1 second. So for those
Yeah,
listening,
yeah,
so the company surges after the Jobs like presentation,
yes.
and so he takes on a bunch of debt that is encompassed in Solar City.
He what he did with Tesla was basically, and I don't remember the exact details, but Tesla pretty much purchased Solar City. So
Okay, and
Tesla, it was basically just a buyout, but because
yeah,
it was all
of both
internal,
both of both companies. That's crazy
yeah. So he basically used Tesla to buy Solar City to save it from bankruptcy because he knew that it was
because he was on the
a
hook for both.
temporary. Yeah, it was well, no, because he knew it was a temporary spike in the share price. He knew that he had saved the company momentarily, but he also knew that the product he held up on stage was fake, and eventually people were going to realize that. Yeah, they're still pretending like they're doing this solar roof thing. That have like literally, I think like 15 they've ever installed or something like that.
Solid numbers.
And I wanted to be the biggest fan of it. I thought it was going to be the
I,
coolest thing in the world. I thought it was going to like solve
that
energy
sounds
problems.
revolutionary, honestly.
Yeah. And
But
turns out it's been proposed many, many times. There's no way to make it work feasibly with
yeah,
our
of
current
course,
technology.
it's exactly. It's like we've wanted flying cars for how long, but it's just
Yeah.
not feasible. So why are we saying it out loud to people?
Yeah. Like if there was no cost involved, someone could do it. But guess what? When it comes to roofs, people tend to care about the cost,
You'd be
you
shocked
know?
at how much people care about roofs.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Okay, so Elon has and this and we're starting to see, right, the mind of a genius, right, a genius, but
But like
that
a
con
psychopathic genius, a
artist
little.
mentality of living 3 to 6 months at a time, right? Just just trying to keep the wheels turning, the engine running just a little bit longer.
And I think a lot of this stems back to like he's a tech guy, he's a tech nerd, and that's why he started tech companies at first. And now he's stuck in this boring job of an automaker, which is why he always tries to make it seem like Tesla's doing all this crazy stuff. Tesla's going to build ventilators. Tesla's going to save the kids in the cave. Tesla's cars are full self-driving. Like he just feels as though he has to make the story something other than we just make pretty good electric cars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you kind of nailed it there.
because that's what it is. We're a pretty good electric car maker. We're growing at like 8%, 10% a year now. You know, the stories like they're hyper growth company. They're not. So like the story isn't fun anymore. There's no excitement at Tesla. They're just a regular automaker who's, they're an electric one, right? They're niche. I get it. Like they're doing things a little bit differently, but they're just an automaker.
Yeah,
And
and
that's not exciting.
you have to think everyone on that board has been completely silenced because he bowled his way in there,
Oh
and
yeah.
he walked in as chairman only to become CEO, which I'm sure was aggressive. He just threw money at the problem because his father. They always say it's like, oh, struggling, like came from South Africa, um, struggled all his life, really picked himself up by the bootstraps type of guy, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, and I don't honestly, I haven't even gone that far into his childhood and his early life. So
Oh,
I
really?
honestly, yeah, no, I haven't gone too far pre PayPal. I would say early 2000s.
That's fair.
Yeah.
His his dad was a um he was a pilot, he was an entrepreneur, he was an electrical engineer. He owned an emerald mine
An
throughout like his
emerald
childhood.
mine.
An emerald mine, yep. Yeah. He
That's some
he
South
had a shit
African
ton of
shit.
money, and the first company, what was it, Zip 2? Zip 2 was funded by quote unquote angel investors. It was their dad.
Yeah.
It was their dad. Their dad funded the entire company,
I don't know.
like
I don't
day
forget what
one.
Zip2 did, but anyway, the larger picture here is you kind of got to ask yourself, should this guy be praised in the media? Should this guy be parroted around as our savior? Should this guy be the new Bill Gates that we turn to for everything? Elon Musk is brought in on every conversation now. Elon Musk has to be questioned. We need his quote on anything that could possibly happen in society. We need Elon's take on it. I disagree. I don't think we do.
That's like
I
when
don't
they
think.
brought Ja Rule in on Firefest. Like, we're gonna cut to Ja Rule. Why? What? Why would we
Yeah,
cut to
why?
Ja Rule? Like,
Can we not?
Elon Musk, while very smart in his own right, and obviously even early on a great a great businessman or whatever. And you know me, I'm one for the loopholes, and if you can make it, great. If not, like, best of luck to you. Like, this man is committing crimes on public forums, and people are praising him for it.
Yeah, and then publications take that and they run with it and they praise it. They praise his actions and he's rewarded for it with more and more money, with more and more shares.
And if
And
the and if
he's now the
the
richest person in the world.
and if
A
the
corporate.
SEC, if the SEC, which is literally and like the organization that does that, is cutting
Mhm.
deals and
Yeah.
not monitoring as much, like his Twitter account, like what are we supposed to do? I know you don't have the answers for this. This is more just a
But
rhetorical question of where the fuck are we going? What are we doing?
well, exactly. It's a bigger picture question about like what standards does that set and how do we get here where this person or any person can act like this and just do what they want. Like, how do we get to this point as a society where the rules and regulations that are in place put by our government that we agree upon just don't pertain to certain people, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the bigger question here. If you or I, let's say we ran a small business and we didn't pay our taxes or something like that, like of course taxes aren't the best example, but we get audited, like we'd get regulated, we'd get shut down. Like small
Oh yeah.
businesses, you know what I mean? Like they get nitpicked for
Small
a
business
whole
shut
bunch
down
of
left
shit.
and right, and they're audited 10, 15 times in their existence, and you're
But
like, what the
but
fuck's going
this
on?
guy, no, openly committing corporate fraud, allowed to keep doing it. So it's just, we need to start changing
Publicly
the narrative.
documented too.
Yeah, we need to start changing the narrative that we have around these people because that's how it's going to change people's perspective, and that's what we're trying to do is open up the discussion. I think a lot of people don't know this because there seems to be, and I don't know why, there seems to be a controlled narrative that Elon is amazing, Elon is great, Elon's a genius, and he can pretty much fix anything for us.
And I
He can
think I
solve
think
everything.
I think that perspective of that, carefree, do whatever, like, I work hard, but I play harder type mentality on a public forum is dangerous, honestly, because there are a lot of people on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, follow us at Life Happens Podcast, um, that are exactly that way, but they're not the richest man in the world with unlimited resources.
Yeah, and that's the
And I
difference
think it's a
is,
very important distinction.
yeah, but it's also when you're the CEO of a publicly traded company, you have certain actions when you're representing your company, specifically when you're speaking about your companies, that you kind of just have to uphold. Or there's just rules you have to follow. There are literal rules you have to follow about what you can and can't say. And that comes with the territory of forcing your way in to be CEO of all the companies you work for. He just chooses to ignore the rules. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I think people need to wake up to it. I think people need to understand that we got to stop praising this guy for, having more money than God when he got it through fraudulent means. When he got it through committing fraud, we got to change that narrative, change the way people look at it. So we stop treating him like this. We stop allowing these people to act like this. Because if we just pretend as though everything's perfect and everything's great and we don't hold them accountable, they just get to keep acting like this. And they're just going to grow more powerful and more wealthy. And that's not what we need in our society. So we need people to kind of change the way they think and talk about these things.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I will leave you with one final quote. But
Sure.
before that, follow us, like us, subscribe to us at the
Yeah,
Life
just
Happens
subscribe.
podcast, Podbean. What else? Oh, iTunes and Spotify. We're fucking everywhere, man. We're everywhere.
YouTube.
But go to YouTube to get the face. Gotta have the face. I will leave our listeners with one quote. It is from his father. He described his own son as, quote, a terrible human being. Almost every evil thing you could possibly think of, he has done. And with that, I leave you with the
Yep.
Life Happens podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.